Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Sharpened Perspectives, episode 17. I am Jim Vandeveld of HMC Knives and HMC Manufacturing, and I am joined today by my co-hosts, Ken Spaulding of Zodiac Engineering and Alex Steingraber of SPK Unlimited. What's up, guys? How's the day going?
Oh, wonderful.
It's going. Yeah, just running.
Day before Thanksgiving.
Been running all mornings. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, you guys have been running. That was actually our constraint today to getting started, was both of these guys had their machines running, whereas I have yet to do almost anything at all since we returned from California a week and a half ago. Thank you last week, Ken, for holding it down with the solo episode, going over the Rev A changes for the datum.
Yeah, it was cool.
I didn't actually get a chance to listen to that podcast, but I think that regardless of if it was the worst podcast in the world, it's still a podcast. And thank you for getting it out, because I was literally dying and Alex was busy. So you held it down, and we can't thank you enough for that. But
no, it was cool. It was fun. Yeah, I actually recorded it a couple times because I was like, I recorded one and I was trying to keep it real short. I'm like, I just don't want to have a gap, in episodes, or a gap a week or whatever. And so I recorded some stuff, and then I finished it. And I'm like, that was fucking stupid. So I ended up redoing the whole thing, and it was actually much better. And it was actually longer the second time I did it. So a lot more focused. I feel like it was cool.
You were getting it out of your system at first and figure out. It's hard to just talk by yourself for an extended period of time with no.
Yeah, because I had no idea, I had no direction or anything. After going through it once, I'm like, all right, this is actually cool. I'll talk about all this Rev stuff. Because I didn't want to talk about CCKS or anything until you got back on here, and talk about. I didn't want to go over any of the auction stuff in detail or anything until we both went through it. And
hell yeah, man!
And
I appreciate you holding off and waiting for us to get back.
No, but it was cool. Plus, I've been able to send it out too. I've sent that episode a bunch on Facebook, because a bunch of guys, now that I'm working on the Rev A stuff, guys are like, "What are the actual changes?" I'm like, "Here's a fucking half-hour video."
Yeah,
this explains almost everything, except I forgot to talk about the blade or the bearing changes. But so I made another little 10-minute video,
a little addendum.
I try and make all right, I'm gonna do just a short 1-minute video, Instagram short or stories and whatever, and they end up being 10 minutes, very very easily, very quickly.
Oh yeah,
and it's the same thing.
There's a piece of software called Cut Story, and I record my videos just in my phone, and then you can upload them into Cut Story and it'll cut it up into whatever sections you want. So I'll just say nice. Instagram story, 60 seconds or whatever the limit is. And then it'll splice it up and then put it on your phone in 60-second or 30-second increments. And then you can just upload them that way, rather than trying to have the conversation within the constraints of holding the button down and running out of time. Yeah. So that's cool. And then you can upload, Instagram will let you upload 10 stories at a time too. So you can just select them in batches of 10 and upload them.
Rad. I gotta do that for sure. Cut Story. I'll download that for sure.
Yeah, Cut Story works really good. But
cool.
Yeah, so today was my first day back. I came out here last week one afternoon for 2 hours. I had to finish some shit up and ship it overnight to get it to one of my customers. So I literally had to drag myself out here, and I was just sitting in this chair dying. I actually cut a second set of jaws, and I was cutting the parts in both machines because I couldn't stand the idea of being out here for 4 hours. So started running them in both. But yesterday I tried to get out here. It's funny, man. I'm not throwing up, no fever or anything anymore, but I get exhausted so fast, and it was the shop was a wreck from CCKS prep. And I walked out here yesterday, and I was just I couldn't do it. I just couldn't deal with the chaos. I ended up getting on the phone with Creo one more time, because I just continued to have issues integrating Creo onto my new machine, my new computer that I built. And I've probably spent 6 or 7 hours on the phone with them. This is really embarrassing, really embarrassing. So I was dealing with this guy. I ended up sending him my configuration files, which kind of it handles every small nuanced setting that you have within the software, from your UI to where your posts are stored and how they're retrieved, to where your posted files. I mean, there's literally 1,000 settings in here that over the last 10 years I have my own config file that I always upload. But the problem was that when I would load the config file, none of the pathways that I had spelled out inside of the config were working, and it was like being superseded by some other default config. So I couldn't actually use the software like I'm used to using. And I had like dealt with all these applications guys, and like I was just having all these problems and nobody could figure it out. And so yesterday, a dude that I used to work with came over because he was like handled all the Creo stuff in my old job. And he like was like, I was like, dude, I need you here. I can't figure this out. Well, he starts looking at my config and he's like, well, the problem is that you're running this folder off of like your pathways in your config are coming off of your C drive, but the file, when you put your file in there, you didn't put it in your C drive directly. You put it in your program files. So there was like one little file in the pathway there that was like, it, like if you looked at them like quickly, your eye doesn't pick up that there's like one extra, like your folder is just a subfolder. It's like one folder too deep. So I had all these app guys from Creo and like going through, they didn't, like, nobody noticed it, you know, and like literally like 6 or 7 hours of like team viewer conversations with like going through all this shit, trying to make it work. And I literally just had to copy it and back it up one folder and paste it. And it worked just fine.
You think they would have a default like format for the path?
Well, so
that,
they
and
do.
Then, like, see that there's an extra.
But what you don't, what I don't realize is that like my shit is set up like the way that my old shop used to do it. So these apps guys are looking at it like, why do you have it set up like this? And like my response is like, well, it's just how it always was set up, you know. But it's like kind of a dumb way. And yeah, so it's working now. But that was all the bandwidth that I had yesterday to solve that. Was like, okay, this is running. Now I'm going to go inside. And so yeah, today was the first day that like I kind of like actually got back to work, and I'm trying to just get the shop ready so that after Thanksgiving I can come back out here full force. I like kind of got hit with the post-show laziness of like I made a good chunk of money and like I felt like shit, and so then I ended up just taking a few extra days, and now I'm like, okay, you got to pop yourself out of here and actually get back to working. But
that's how it was for me after Makers for a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you don't think we realize like how much of yourself you're putting into like that prep, and like no matter what, whether you schedule the downtime or not, I think it ends up inherently being there. Pretty much everybody says the same thing, whether you get sick and you're forced to take the downtime, or you're smart and you just plan to take a few days off. Like, I think it's a necessary reset for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and your body will force you to do that at some point too. I've been in that situation where just like, especially in the beginning of the folder endeavor, it was like I was just working so much, and my body was just like, "Nope, you're staying home today, bitch." And it's just like,
yeah, it's true, man. That's honestly, that was something like people will say, like, I don't know how you do it having 5 kids, or I don't know how, like, because when I was used to work a ton of overtime, I don't know how you're working 80 hours a week. And it's like, I mean, it's conditioning, you know what I mean? It's not like anybody, like, you don't have 5 kids at once. You don't all of a sudden go from working 37 and a half hours a week to working 80 hours a week. It's just like, you just slowly, or it's like anything, you're just pushing your threshold for what you're doing, you know? And I think that the same thing holds true for like recovery also. Like, you don't just need a week and take a week. It's, well, I'm going to take a day, and then, well, I need 2 days. And the more you do, then the more recovery period that you need. You know, it's just, it's kind of like finding what your balance is. But yeah, this was this show was great. For those that don't know, so Ken, there was a show in Los Angeles. Well, actually, it was in the Valley. It was in Woodland Hills, the California Custom Knife Show. It was like a week and a half ago, and I was vending it, and Ken drove up from Anaheim, and he actually worked my table with me, and he brought the final Datum Rev NC that he made, and he made an Ultim show scale for it. And he also brought an Ultim challenge coin and slingshot with an Ultim inlay, and he did a little auction. And I actually was very excited that you brought everything up, because I think a lot of people at that show are now aware of what I've known for quite a while, and that's that the Datum is a very special knife. And I think that it was really important for you as a maker to be able to share that with people that are going to appreciate it. And I loved watching guys like Bill Koenig, or I mean, even like any of my friends that were at the show, like being able to like look over the Datum with like a thoughtful and understanding eye, and to watch them kind of like drink in the details and appreciate like the small and very dynamic parts of that knife. And I think that was cool for them to experience it, but I think it's also cool for you. I know that guys at Makers were able to take a look at it, but I think that you probably noticed that there was a lot of people at this show that are kind of like knife connoisseurs. You know what I mean? That like we're able to look at that with it from a different perspective than a bunch of collectors of hype knives like that at Makers had. Did you notice that?
It was a totally different feel of people that were at the show for sure. Yeah. I not to discredit or take anything away from anybody that was at Makers, because that was obviously an awesome show. Everybody there was awesome, but it was a very different tier. I feel like at CCKS when you've got guys like Tom Mayo and Terzula and them like walking the show. You have actual like legends in the industry. I feel like, at least, as long as I've been in it, guys that have tables and that are just walking the show looking at other people's stuff. Like Tashi was there. There was a bunch of like guys that I've watched and looked up to for 10 plus years making knives that are at tables just down the same aisle as us. It was it was a different vibe for sure. Both of them were awesome. I think, like, personally, at least my crowd is kind of more Makers from Maker Syndicate, just because I think more of the Makers were more of kind of our style, or at least my style.
Oh, for sure.
But it was a great show. And I think because tables seem to be, you could just buy a table, right, if you want to be there.
Yep.
I think as long as, things keep going as they are now, I would love to have a table next year. For sure.
Yeah, I think you would do
something
well
I definitely
there.
want to talk to Sako about.
It's a very interesting group of people, right? Because like you said, you have your Mayos, your John Grays, guys that have been in the industry for a long time. But then you also have guys that are crossing that bridge. Like, Edison was at Makers. Obviously, Edison had the table both at Friday Night Blade Affair and he had one at CCKS. But he's kind of bridging both, right? Where he has this like very high-end custom stuff, handmade in a lot of facets. And then he also has like a fully machined like line of knives that like he purveys. Like, I think he brought 12 to CCKS, where he's machining bevels and, doing tons of inlay stuff and like, fully machined knives. I think we're starting to see that transition. And I think that CCKS is going to be a show because it's in such a populated area and such a big customer base that you're going to see that as almost like a transitory show where you're going to see both sides of it. Like, you're going to have a combination of guys like you and Alex, or guys that are fully handmade and kind of everything in between. But I do really feel like the amount of people that were there, like, supported pretty much everything at the show. That's the nice thing about having so many people in LA, is that like there was just a lot of people at that show. I feel like the room was 4 times the size of the Makers room, and to me, a lot of the time it felt like just as full. There was a lot of foot traffic through those doors.
It was packed the whole time. And there were guys that were there all day long that were walking around. You see the same guy walking, multiple times, and they would stop every single time and talk to us.
Yeah, dude.
So it was really cool. Something you were just talking about that I wanted to touch on, but it was like people seeing the datum. There was actually one guy, which was really cool. At least, for me, obviously, he stopped and was looking at it, and he was like, "This is my favorite knife out of the whole show. Out of every single knife that's on every single table, he's like, this specific knife is my favorite one." He's like, "I can't afford it, but I love it.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day I'll get one." And
Dude,
it was cool. He was a younger guy. He was probably our age. And he was there. I think it was his girlfriend or whatever. It was just cool. Like, completely all different walks. I feel like different age groups, different styles. The cool thing about it is that even though it felt like it was it wasn't really like there were cliques or like groups of guys. There kind of was, just kind of how the tables were laid out. But you could basically go up to any table and everybody there was cool. Everybody that came to our table was cool. You don't really get, like, 5, 6, 10 years ago, there was like this huge hate on machine knives. No CNC, and everybody was tagging all that shit. And it was like, there was like this weird stigma about using CNC machines specifically for making any kind of part on your knife. And now I feel like that is, at least it seemed like at the show, like no one was talking about that. No one had anything to say about any of that stuff. People don't seem to care as much anymore how your things are made, as long as you're making them.
Yeah, it's a moot point at this point.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are really realizing that it's not the easy way out. It's not like it's not really a shortcut. It's just a different set of skills and a different set of tooling, really. And
yeah, I think it was
we've
different
talked about that a lot.
We were in the minority, you know what I mean? Was that like, I think that now as people, as makers in a career setting have matured, people just realize that without the help of a machine, that like you're really only hamstringing yourself, you know, like by proclaiming that you're never going to use one, you're pretty much condemning yourself to have to use your hands for everything for the rest of your life. Like, I think guys are just realizing that using it as a tool, one, improves your product, two, gives you a little bit of a break, and three, like makes it that much more consistent. You know? So I think we all knew it was only a matter of time before it got there. It's not if, it was when, you know, and that the guys that didn't like the idea of the machine were the just dudes that hadn't utilized them yet. You know, I have had like so many people come into the shop and watch how a knife is made and like, man, I need to get figured this out. I need to implement this. I need to do this. And it's like, yeah, dude, like this is the future. And it's like, and it's not some new technology. Like it's been around for 40 years. You know what I mean?
It's been around longer than we've been alive.
Years. Yeah. But at a consumer level, like until 10 years ago, like it wasn't really possible for a hobbyist to like get them. I mean, even like how many, I don't even think the infrastructure was in place for like a guy that wasn't in the industry to like approach a machine tool sales or distribution place to like even make that purchase. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like you were taken seriously from like financing companies. You know, it's like if you weren't a big shop that like wasn't established, like Joe Schmo with a garage wasn't walking into Yamazin and like buying a Speedio. You know, it's just that wasn't really a thing. And now, like, I think that these machine tool dealers are understanding that is more of a thing than ever, and they're like catering their process for purchase, and they're making it like buying a car. You know, like being able to shop rates and like being able to kind of like purvey, you know, the machine in that way. Like, oh, there is a huge demand for like the one-off guy in the garage that wants a machine. It's more approachable than it's ever been, and it's like, you know, I think of it like as the first time, well, the only time that I bought knives from China was like, how do you even contact the Chinese to like get a production run of knives? And you had to like get an email from a friend and have him CC you to their purchaser. And like, it was like really convoluted and like kind of like sketchy. And now like you could do it like tomorrow as formally as you want it. It's just, it's one of those things that's just becoming more commonplace, and like the methods for doing it are becoming more available. So yeah, I think it's only going to become more and more available as we go forward. And I think that the stigma surrounding it's just going to continue to diminish. We just need like more makers doing it. You know, that's really all that it comes down to, is like everybody that's ever hit me up to ask me how to get into CNC, like I'll give them the list. Here's the stuff you need. Here's what you need to buy. Here are the options. Here's how many, if you want to do it my way, here's how many tool holders you need. Here's how many collets you need. Here's the, you want to do it, go ahead. You know, like, and I think that we just need to continue to support guys making that transition. And like, in a lot of ways, I feel like standardizing it, it's kind of like bikes, you know what I mean? Like the more guys are doing it in a similar way, the end product will be different, but like, if you can standardize the processes within an industry, like, I don't know, I think that could be pretty cool. You know, you could almost have like plug and play knife making CNC style.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. There was a guy years ago, not somebody that I follow or support or anything anymore because of some things that have happened over the last couple of years that the whole entire industry found out about. But there was a guy that had a very basic knife model on his website that anybody could just download with solid models of it. And I remember downloading that, and I thought it was the coolest thing because you could literally, you have solid models of every single part in the whole entire knife. It was ugly. It wasn't a great, knife. And looking back on it, I don't think it had the greatest lock geometry or any of that kind of stuff, but it was cool that was available. And I think that would be something that would be nice to do, kind of an updated version of that, especially if it's like a fully parametric file within Fusion.
Sure. Where
you have a very, very basic blade profile. It doesn't have to be anything that resembles anything that I would make, but just like a simple knife that has lock geometry in it, that has a lock relief, that has all the proper kind of geometry and dimensions and things in it that somebody can just download. And if they want to make it, they could make it just literally straight off those files, or print it or whatever. And that would be something that would be easy to make too if you wanted to make blanks. Because there was some talk about, it was like probably 10 years ago, about somebody, it was a manual guide. He's like, I wish I could just buy rectangle blanks with a heat treated rectangle blank blade that had lock geometry in it. And the tie had the lock bar cut out of it already. And all I need to do is just shape everything and throw some primaries on it. And I can make a knife out of this blank. And it would be pretty cool, I think, to do something like that at some point too. Not that I have time for it, but
yeah, it's just an idea though, you know, when you're talking
it would be
about,
cool.
You know, whether we're talking about like from a community perspective, you know, what this looks like, or what the Ken Spaulding, you know, brand looks like going forward, having like a plug and play, you know, I thought about that too. Like you could even have it all programmed, and you can just say, hey, if you buy a Pearson mini pallet system and a dual station vise setup like this, here's this file with all the CAD and all the cam, and like you can make this and then see how it works and then adapt it all for like your own design, you know. But just to have that in standard, I actually thought about that, like, you know, even if you were helping people implement like new machines, like, hey, I want to buy a machine and I want you to help me get started making the knife. It's like, okay, well, I already have all this designed. I can go through all of it with you, and then once I'm done being or working with you, then you can sit back and apply your own design to it. Yeah, I could see that as being a marketable option for sure.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool, especially if like for making YouTube content or any type of long form content that really gets into the weeds on this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Designing that very specific knife, I think, would be a cool project for that.
For sure.
I'm doing a lot more like longer videos lately. I did one last week of a tool breakage detection program that I did on the Haas. And it takes the breakage cycle, the stock run and shot breakage cycle, at least on my machine, is about 25, 26 seconds. And I just wrote one from scratch, found some of the signals in there for probe on, or probe, if the probe is triggered or not, and utilizing some of that, and then some jumps in the programs, depending on if the signal is tripped or not. It basically checks for a pullout and it checks for breakage detection, and it does the whole entire thing from home down, does a rough pullout, a fine pullout, a breakage detection, and sends it home. And it does that all in 4 seconds, compared to about 25, 26 seconds. So obviously it's way faster, but I ended up taking a video of it and posting it on Facebook on a bunch of groups and stuff. And it was one of those things where I thought it was going to take, you know, a 1 or 2 minute video, and it ended up being 10 or 12 minutes. It's very, very easy to make longer content like that. So I think doing some like knife design work like that would be actually a pretty cool project. I've thought about it briefly before, but actually talking out loud with you guys has kind of paved some of the pathway for that. I think it would be fun to do that. And then make those files available if somebody wants them at the end. So
I think that's a great idea.
I'd like to put out a little bit more content for that kind of stuff, because there's so many people that hit me up at the show like, hey, can I hit you up about doing some stuff? Like I need help with CAD work. I need help with this or that. I'm like, you guys aren't very far. Why don't you just come to the shop and book a day, and we'll just hang out for a day, and we can go through fusion stuff. We can go through setup stuff. We can go through literally whatever you guys want. If you want to pay me my shop rate for a day, I'll turn everything off. I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing for me. I mean, aside from like wanting to make more progress on the knives, but I threw that out to a couple guys, and the guys that I talked to are actually extremely interested.
Yeah, or try and line that up with days when you know that you're just going to be running something like today.
Yeah.
You know, like
exactly.
Hey, we're going to do computer work together, but in the meantime, like, hey, every 45 minutes, I need to take 2 seconds to load another.
Yeah, I got to swap.
Double dip. You know, and then that honestly, like, that gives them exposure to your process. You know, they can be looking at your stuff and how you're making it, and like, you can just book 1 or 2 days a week or 5 days a month or whatever for like that kind of stuff.
That'd be sweet. But, be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, you live in an area with enough people that, like, I feel like you actually could have the demand. Me in Erie, Pennsylvania, there's not that many people that are going to come walking through this door. But I honestly, I would be willing to bet that you would have people be willing to fly in for that too. You know what I mean?
It'd be pretty cool. Yeah.
If they could put themselves up in a hotel and you do it as like a 2-day thing, you know, they'd spend $5,000 or, you know, $3,500 between a hotel, a plane ticket, and 2 days of shop time. But like, they'd probably walk away with quite a bit of knowledge. So.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Yeah, happy to share all that stuff. There was a couple guys talking in the Facebook group about like, dude, how do you, he's like, I forget who it was. So anyways, he was saying, he's like, it's really cool that you're actually sharing this much information publicly and all these details, and like talking about dimensions and talking about like why you do certain things for lock geometry or whatever. And some of it was from the last episode, 16, going over some of the Rev A changes, and then a video that I did for the bearing pockets and stuff. But it was cool. I'm like, why gatekeep any of that stuff? does me no good if I die tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't want to give away like, you know, personal secrets that people have, you know, showed me or things like that, because it's not my information to really share. But a lot of this stuff is already out there publicly. It's just scattered. There's no good.
It's not concise.
There's none of it. Yeah. And there's a lot of it's been skewed over the years too. So it's kind of nice to be able to pull some of the information, especially now that I'm using a lot of that information and realizing some of it was trash.
Yep.
You can really kind of filter through that stuff. So
no, for sure, man. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
But
be cool.
To wrap up with CCKS, just to put a pin in it.
Yeah.
I definitely want to thank everybody that stopped by. There was a lot of familiar names and faces, and you know, it was great just to have conversation. And I appreciated you being there and being able to field stuff for guys. And I just think that the show overall was a smashing success, and I'm looking forward to doing it next year too. But yeah, going forward, just to touch base on what you guys got going on. I know that Alex, you're preparing to make available the LMAX bladed Lamia stuff, right?
Oh yeah, so I got that all.
Oh, very nice.
Somewhere in there. Gotta get Alex a camera.
Somewhere in there. This potato quality. But yeah, LMAX. So came back from Heat Treat. It was right within spec and all that stuff. And I did this method of like, there's a lot of guys that have these hammers with a like a carbide ball brazed into the back of it. So
I got two of those.
So I have a bunch of carbide end mills lying around. So I just ground like a curve into one of them and use that to kind of bend things back. Worked pretty good.
How out of flat were they?
Not terrible. Not terribly out of flat. Some of them did kind of potato chip a little bit, but I think because they ran a little bit higher temper, so I got to talk to them about that. But other than that, everything was pretty flat.
How much stock do you have? Is your thickness finished before heat treat, or are you typically are you leaving stock to have the surface? The flats can
these ones were final dimension.
Ooh,
and then going
scary.
forward, I think what I'm going to do is machine everything, heat treat, and then go back to double disc grinding and just have it finished that way. I just didn't do it that way before because I did everything. Like I did all the heat treating in house, so it was like a little bit easier to keep things flat as opposed to, you know, relying on a company to do it. But yeah, going forward, it's going to be double disc grinding is going to be the last step before it comes back and gets machined.
So are you just like tumbling them finished? Like how are you achieving the finish on your flats?
They're just tumbled.
Interesting. So you just machine everything hard and then just tumble them so they're just a homogeneous uniform finish, like tumbled finish?
Yeah.
Interesting. You're not having any centering issues at all with like having your pivots finished before heat treat and then having like a little bit of warping and shit that you're peening out, like everything's staying pretty straight and
yeah, everything's staying pretty straight, and then I lap all the pivot after the fact. So
interesting, because I was figuring that if you were like peening them, if they were a little bit whatever, like trying to hand satin the flats, like I hand satin everything after surface grind and everything. But yeah, that would be really hard to do, even if you were like peening them into place, like getting them to be flat enough to hand satin the flats would be hard. So I guess tumbling. Are you blasting before tumbling, or are you just tumbling straight up?
Just tumbling straight. This tumbler is like insanely more efficient than any tumbler I've ever used.
Damn. That's
it's like, it's definitely worth the money.
Nice, dude. It's so nice.
Like like it has the heat treat finish on it from, you know, heat treat, and I throw it in and it removes all of that finish and makes a uniform finish on everything. It's insane.
How long are you tumbling for?
30 minutes.
What?
Even the 5-minute samples and stuff that you were doing were ridiculous. It's like 4 hours in my little tumbler with ceramic. Yours is like 5 minutes, the same finish.
Yeah, it's 30 minutes and it's at 375 RPMs and it's like pretty solid. And then on these, because I have that stupid tab on the spine, so I whack it off on the machine and then I tumble it and then I finish grind that little piece out and then get it on the deburring wheel and like make it uniform, and then throw it back in the tumbler for like 5 minutes, and it kind of cleans up the spine and kind of blends everything together, and it's done.
See, I've been trying to figure out how I want to do this, because I'm going to be beginning to release transients on a weekly basis starting in like the first week or two of December. And like, I'm trying to figure out how I want to finish them, like, do I take the time to do it how I've been doing it, which is like satin flats and satin bevels, or do I like just go the route of doing blasted finishes or tumbled finishes? Like, I don't know what the move is, like, I don't want to devalue what I'm doing. Like, I'm nervous that like, if I do some easier finishing processes in the name of just producing more knives on a monthly basis, that in some way they're going to like be devalued. People are going to look at that as like, oh, that's a lesser version. Maybe they won't care at all. I don't really know. Like, do I want to do some acid wash
and no
stuff?
you'll probably run into that. Yes and no. But I feel like, again, you're separating out your full customs versus like, it's not like a lazy finish. It's like, hey, it's in the sake of time and quantity, I want to do these finishes like a working finish.
Yeah.
And get them in people's hands. The quality's still there, but now you can reserve your, custom finishes for those, those pieces that you bring to shows and stuff like that. Or
the question is,
how
do you change the pricing? You know what I mean? Because it's like,
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, like, the thing is that like, it doesn't take all that long to do like the finishing. Like, it could be a half an hour difference. You know what I mean? So it's like, do you take that extra half an hour knife, or do you not take it, and then what do? Decrease the cost by like $50? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's getting so much less work that it merits like a 15 or 20% price reduction. You know what I mean? It's just
right.
Something different. And the problem is I've backed myself into this hole because I've always done the full finish on every knife I've ever done. Whereas like, I look at a lot of guys like maybe Cody Usler, for example, that's like doing a little bit higher volume, and he has a lot of stone washed finishes, and he has a lot of acid washed finishes. And like, because my stuff has never had that, I have to find a way to market it. I might just say, no, this is just an alternate finish style that I'm doing, and like, make it not spin it as being any less quality or value. You know what I mean? It's just like, no, this is just a different aesthetic that I'm going to be offering for right now, and kind of see how it's received. I guess it's not a bad thing, I think, to have options.
Yeah,
I don't think it's really a lazy finish anyways. I mean, tumbling parts or blasting them, it just depends on what the user wants the knife for. It's like, I carry this Lamia that's all tumbled, and I don't feel bad about cutting stuff with it. I don't feel bad about scratching it, because I know that the finish is easily recreatable if I needed to. I could throw the parts in the tumbler if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Or I just don't feel bad about scratching it. I know that like that datum that I did at the auction, that was the only blade that I had blasted out of all the datums that I made, the first 15, and it got scratched at the show. Got handled for hours, and it got broken in really, really well. The action was the best, I think, at the end of the show out of all the ones that I made. But it got scratched. So I brought it back and I had to refinish it. And realistically, I think it looks nice. It's a really nice matte blasted finish, but it's more work for me to actually blast a blade than it is to simply throw this on than it is to actually throw this on the belt and put a grain on it.
Sure.
Or on the paper and put a grain on it. Because I know if I scratch this thing again, I can just throw a new grain on it real easily.
Yep.
And the issue with blasting it, taking it apart and blasting it, is actually changed the action again. It wasn't anywhere near as broken as it was. It wasn't broken in really well at all after that. So
you almost need to create a plug or something, a blasting plug that covers your detent track.
Yeah, for sure. I have some here. They're little Delrin plugs that I can throw a bolt through it. It's like a 1024 bolt. It fits through the 3/16 bore. And it covers all the detent track. It doesn't cover the lock face or anything, but it covers most of that stuff. But I think moving forward, if I end up doing more blasting stuff on that, I'll probably go that route and cover some more stuff up. Having a 3D printer like Alex just got to would make it super fucking easy. But
Alex got a 3D printer? When did he get one? Did you get a Bamboo?
Of course.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. I really was
He
sick.
just brought it. Look at this little cup holder. Did you print that thing? There you go.
Yeah, I just printed that today.
Fucking Alex, you bastard.
Dude, I want a bamboo so bad.
Dude, they're
Just get
on
one.
sale
They're
right
on
now.
sale right now.
They're on sale. I'll tell you the exact one to get. You'll be happy with it. Trust me.
How much are they on sale for?
Just get the X1CC. It's the carbon.
Just
the
get the
X1 carbon combo.
Don't get the stupid thing. Don't get the stupid like add-on with all the filaments on top.
No,
Don't
do
get
get
that.
that. Yes, get that. Yes.
Oh
get
my
that.
god.
Get that, please.
I didn't get it
then you
because
could
I was just like, it's just too much.
No, get that. It's only like a couple $100 more. It's like 300. It's $1,300 right now for the full carbon combo one. So
Yeah,
with that one, you could put different
Regardless
filaments in
on
it.
sale.
It'll automatically change. You can always add it later if you want.
Damn, it was on
Yeah.
sale, isn't it? For $1,300.
$1,300, dude. That
The
was
free
one.
filament
That was
gift is no longer available due to limited quantities.
yeah. Well, it's yeah, and they're on sale too, so they're probably
X1C.
cutting all
Yeah,
that
that
was
was-
stuff out. Get the X1C combo.
X1C.
Because then you could print supports, you can print alternate colors or different materials in the same thing. It's going to be way more efficient, especially if you want to do supports.
How much does a spool of filament cost?
I haven't looked, but it depends on what you want to get.
I don't want any of these lame colors. I just want monochrome colors.
Oh, I just get
more
PLA.
gray.
Get PLA tough then. Get PLA tough and get whatever like base like a black or a gray.
Just order it right now. That was one lotto knife for you. That was one first come first serve. So
It's gonna
Jim's
come
knives all
super
did
handy.
fucking awesome at the show. By the way, you never really hyped yourself up about that. Your auctions, your 2 auctions were fucking huge. Those things went really well. Your
Yeah.
lottos were stacked. There was I think around 70 people, 65 to 70 people on all
So,
of
like
your
9
lottos.
pages, 9 pages worth
Yeah.
of people.
On all your
It was
lottos.
It was pretty
The first
good.
come first serves were gone in 30 seconds from the doors opening.
Yeah,
It was a
so
pretty good show.
yeah, I was talking to guys in the Discord, and there's a lot of guys that in my
It
Discord
was fucking
that,
awesome.
that
Yeah.
ran to your table and missed out by like 1.
There was a
Second.
line. There was a
Yeah.
line of guys. They're like, dude, are they gone? Are they gone? He's like,
Yep.
there's 2 guys at the table right now, and each one are holding one. One guy was like, I don't even give a shit. You were here first. You take whatever one you want. I'll just take whatever's left. I don't care. And it was cool.
Also, and I don't mean to brag for us as the
Jim's being
Sharpening
too humble, but-
Perspective crew, but there are a ton of guys now that need to get the trifecta, so all of our knives.
Yeah.
Is that a
I think
thing?
there's
That's a
one
thing
guy
now.
with one, right?
It's starting to happen.
I think there's
It's
one
a-
guy with one. I know
Yeah.
one guy that's got a green. I think he's got the green transient. He's got his datum up for sale right now in the Facebook group. I haven't asked him why. I hit up one guy and asked him like, "Hey, no hard feelings, no sweat. I'm just genuinely curious. Why you're selling it.
You want that feedback,
I just want some feedback. Like, is there anything wrong with it? Like,
right?
I don't care. It's totally fine. You can buy and sell whatever you want. I mean, no one that sold one seemed like they were like a flipper. They didn't seem like they were literally buying it for profit or anything.
Oh, you're talking about Jonathan Harrington.
Yeah. And I haven't talked to him about it. I know he's got it up for sale. Yeah. I should just hit him up because he was him and I talked a lot when he first got it.
He's super,
Johnny Knives. Super nice guy.
Yeah,
super
he's
chill.
awesome. Super cool guy for sure. I just haven't hit him up about it.
He's got 2 Lamias, I think.
So he does have, he's got all 3 then. He was the one guy that I think had all 3. Yeah. But yeah, the first guy was like, oh, it was just a little big for me. He's like, I love it. Everything on it was fucking awesome. He's like, it's just a little bit big. He's like, I need to get on.
Version.
He's like, whenever you make an S, he's like, I'll buy another one. And then another guy he sold one. He's like, I have a Grail knife that I've been chasing for years. It's available. I sold off all my stuff to buy it.
Yep.
And sorry, but I really, now that I have this other knife, I wish I never sold yours. So it was kind of cool. Whoops.
Why can't they make the bamboo X1 carbon in the black of the cheaper one?
Yeah.
I wanted that too, but yeah.
Honestly, that one's cool too, though. It doesn't matter which one you get; they're all going to be good. But the X1C, you're going to be able to print a lot more materials with it, and then having the
and it has all the stuff, and it has an internal camera that you can check on your phone with an app.
It's the way to go right now for sure.
It's so baller.
I had a pre-order for it. I had a pre-order for the Prusa XL.
39 minutes.
Like 2 minutes ago, or 2 minutes ago. He's talking about minutes. Like 2 years ago, and then I ended up just canceling it. I'm like, fuck, the bamboo's out. Prusa's taking absolutely forever for this thing. I'm not gonna sit around and wait another 2 years for it. So I just canceled that thing. I think as soon as these datums are out, I'm gonna probably order one of those X1Cs.
Yeah, I gotta. Yeah,
just do it right now. You could have it. You could have the confirmation email before we're done on this
You
thing.
said a PLA matte, PLA basic, ABS,
PLA
PLA tough.
Yeah, PLA tough. It's PLA and
No,
it's
I'm
got
getting
a little
PLA
bit of
sparkle.
Okay.
PLA.
Okay.
Oh, PLA tough. Okay. Why is that good?
It's just got a little bit of, added
Toughness.
I guess. I don't know. And it's easy to print.
You
Just
guys
get whatever.
using Fusion to print, or like what do you? Is there different software that people use?
It comes with the software.
It's got its own slicer and all that stuff in there. You can model everything in Fusion or whatever, and then you just drop your models in there.
What
and
file
you can
type is it like?
STL. So export out of you can.
So
I mean, if Creo can export as STL, you can do that too. But since you have this new computer, and I think we're coming up on the.
I'm at the deadline for Fusion.
I think we're at the deadline for Fusion right now. So you spent
he's downloading it
6 hours on the phone with Creo apps, guys.
I messed up doing that.
Yeah, you spent 6 hours talking to Creo apps, guys, wasting thousands of their dollars just to download Fusion and finally jump on that. Just do it, dude.
You click on a body and
you got no more excuses.
Export as mesh, and it'll export as STL, and you load it into your Bamboo, and then you can just hit print.
Does it figure out how to do all the support stuff on the inside?
Yeah, it figures it out.
I think
itself.
There's some settings for that. You can customize it if you
slicer,
want.
You just click run supports, and then once you slice it, it'll throw the supports in where you need to throw them in. It's stupid easy.
Okay. All right.
It's it's literally plug and play.
It's about as good as it gets. And if you get that combo on top, you can actually use support material that comes off way easier. So just do it, dude. Just fucking do it. I would do it too, but.
And you can print your kids' toys and cup holders.
I'm not printing.
Now I got this cup holder.
My buddy printed me when he got one of his first printers. He printed me a Oreo holder that hung on the side of his coffee cup, and there was a stack of Oreos. Hudson walks around it now in his belt.
Printed fixed blades.
Dang! When did you get this printer?
Oh, I think it was last week. I got
when you were in a coma.
When I was
last week.
Coma.
You were in your
I don't
coma
want to bring it up.
Well, I have. Yeah,
it ships from New Jersey, so you'd have it in 3 days.
I'll have it by Monday.
You'll have it by the next episode. And you'll also be on Fusion
next week. It shipped super fast, and it got here super quick, and it was really good packaging, and it was.
Should I buy the filament right now?
Yeah, buy it.
Might as well have something. Yeah,
it comes with some filament. It comes with some filament, but you want to buy filament.
It's like buying a printer that comes with ink that's good for 2 sheets.
Mm.
Dude, they really
silver, gray, black, pine green.
Matter Hackers has a lot of really cool filaments too. I don't want to jump on the internet because I think that's what messed up my recording last time, but I'm going to do it anyways.
And Bamboo is not a sponsor of this podcast yet, but
not yet.
They really hook you up with all the stuff. They give you an extra hot end. They give you extra wiper thing because it automatically cleans the nozzle and all this other stuff. They give you all the lube in the world to lube up the rails and stuff, or the ball screws. But yeah, dude, it's 100% worth it.
Speaking of lubes, I want to talk to you guys about knife lube stuff today too.
Super
I need to
lube.
order some stuff. Super lube. That's the way to go for sure. Super lube.
That's the way to go. They got liquid and they got grease, and it's both Teflon base. It's all food grade, all this other stuff. It's cheap. It's good stuff. And it actually has a safety material data sheet.
Nice. You said Harbor
Whereas
Freight
all
has
the
it?
other stuff, Harbor Freight sells it. Amazon sells it. You could also buy it right from their website. You can get it in a 55-gallon drum if you wanted to.
Good. Does Home Depot have it? I got to go there and get some lights.
They do not.
Home Depot actually has 4-foot LEDs, similar to those Harbor Freight ones we were talking about, and they're actually cheaper than Harbor Freight, which is very surprising. And they're linkable too, so I'm going to grab 3 of those today. We got a birthday party this weekend. I want to get the garage all cleaned up for all the dads.
So while Jim is ordering his new printer, so I'm just going to finish up what I had going on. the LMAX Lamia.
Yes.
I might make a change on it. I might not, but the LMAX engraving kind of you can't even see it, but it kind of hangs out. It doesn't make the blade sterile anymore, but it kind of sticks out a little bit. It's sort of bothering me, but not really. I'm probably going to let it go.
You just change it? You've got 4 digits right now, right? It's just ELMX
I got 4.
or something?
I could probably put 3 in there and it would fix it, but I don't know. Just don't really feel like doing it. And
just do it, dude. It's going to bug you later if you don't do it.
Yeah, you're right. I've already engraved a bunch of blades already, though, with it. So
yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna take a look at it and see how I feel about it. But anyway, yeah. So just finished up 112 Op1 internals, and then working on getting through all the blades. And I think I'm gonna have over 100 for pre-order Friday. So this week. So yeah, just trying to. I got literally all the hardware. And one thing too is like I contacted Steve at Tie Connector. They said they're working on bearings. They're going to have them in a couple of weeks. But in the meantime, I ordered 120 sets of skiffs from Steven.
Yeah.
And he gave me a sweet quantity discount and is shipping them today. So
nice.
All these LMAX Lamias, the first run of them will have skiff bearings in them.
All right, it's done.
It's
done. Did it. Nice. He did it. Okay, now go order mine for me.
All right, here you go. Santa Jim.
There we go.
With all said and done, it was cheaper than what it would cost before the discount. So that's with 4 spools of cool colored things.
Nice, dude. Congratulations. I need to jump on this train, man.
Nice.
I just want it for like organization shit.
That's all I'm going to be doing is printing quality of life. I don't want to prototype anything. I just want to be surrounded, my existence to be You know who's doing so many things that I want to make is Dylan Tanner. Every day he's posting stuff to his story of like, I made this magnetic box for my precision stones, and like he's sending me all these like weird things that he's making, and like the surface finishes are like satinly beautiful and like
they're nice.
Like, dude, yeah. Like I even like making little display stands like for my table.
It'd be rad for the show. Fuck yeah, dude, that'd be so cool.
Everything would be 3D printed. Yeah, this is going to be a problem.
Because you can actually print text in there if you wanted to with a separate color.
3D printed this freaking cell phone holder.
Everything.
Boom. There we go.
Well, it's more incentive for Ken to finish the datums that he has working on right now.
Yes.
So that
he can get 17
himself a bamboo.
What do I got?
Well, I looked at my bank account and I was like, oh, I thought I had this much and I had this much. And I was like, I better spend some money because I don't want taxes to, come around and
we need to buy that little. We need to buy that little Swiss, dude. If you're serious about it, let's just do that.
I'm dead serious. You tell me when, and you invoice me, and then I'll just throw out my credit card and I get points.
All right, let's just do that, and then we'll be done with it because I think he needs to get it out
after Friday. After Friday, I'm 100% down. Like it needs to happen because I'm also. Not that you heard it here first. I'm also going to pull the trigger on that bevel grinder.
Dope.
Oh,
like I'm 100% pulling the trigger on it.
Nice.
I talked to.
How do you handle the financing of that? Like,
so here's the deal: is like I'll send you the quote that I got. The terms on it are stupid because not stupid in a bad way, stupid in a good way because their terms are like 25% down at confirmation, 25% down in 3 months. 40% down in like whenever they finish testing, and then the rest down when they ship it.
So like you actually kind of have like a built-in 6 months, like you purchase it and just make like 25% payment every 3 months.
Their lead time is 8 months, so it's like
you have to come up with $100,000 in 8 months.
Yes,
and it's like. Okay, that's a lot of money, but it actually is doable when you break it down.
And it's in chunks. It's not like it's all one lump sum. And the shipping is door to door, so I don't.
That would be sweet, so that when you have it, it'll actually be paid for.
Right.
Just plan your drops accordingly. You're like, okay, 50%
and they're going to turn
every drop,
and they're turnkeying. They're turnkeying your primaries too.
they're turnkeying my primaries for me before I even get it.
Oh, so you give them a model and they're building everything to be able to make it when it arrives.
And I said, and I send them samples too, and they'll grind samples for me. They said.
That's dope.
What's the footprint like on it?
It's like 8 foot by tiny. It's like pretty skinny.
It's like a Swiss.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like Swiss
Swiss.
size.
Well, congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thanks, dude.
That's cool. I'm
obviously you guys are gonna get hooked up on that the bevel grinding because I need to test some shit out. Obviously,
I will for sure have a flat ground version of my knife that.
There you go.
That would be sick.
Pay you to make. Honestly, we'll keep that Swiss running. Just figure out your piece prices, and we'll just pay. That's the one nice thing. Like that's what like the old CKMU shop had going for it. Except for this is like a way better version
all kinds
of
of
it.
cool shit.
Is that like if everybody has the ability to do things, and you're just paying your friends to like keep their machines running, like it just works out. Where they're like everybody wins their stuff, so they're getting that made for free. But in the meantime, if they can be running stuff that they're getting paid for the people that they know, it's just spindle up time, and everybody's winning. You know,
right?
Especially if we can kind of standardize stuff like we were talking about earlier. It'd be nice have kind of some common components that we could share between them. I know I've got a little bit of flexibility in mine, and I know my hardware is very similar to your stuff too, because it was all kind of designed around the same screw we did 10 years ago.
Realize is like you're pretty much everybody uses the same shit anyways because they get it all from Steve. It's just like it's not a problem to standardize hardware. I really don't think it is.
It really should be standardized a little bit better. I mean, it sucks because there's not that many guys that are designing stuff that's so specific that it really, really needs something custom. I would say the majority of people that are buying hardware are just designing around that hardware anyways.
Yeah.
So they don't have to modify it. So standardizing shit would be huge.
That's literally what I did. I used all the standard 440 screws, but the only thing is that if that pivot barrel was a little shorter, like by 20 thou, it'd be perfect.
Dude, that's the thing that's nice is that when when you have that programmed, like to be able to say, like, hey, we all use the same barrel, but like one guy needs it in a little bit of a different length. Like it's not that hard to just change that. Like,
super
you know what I mean?
easy, especially if it runs off of macros or anything.
Yeah.
Some of them have custom, like their own format of macros, but you could easily build it, especially if it's got like Fanic Macro B in there. You just put a variable for the overall length, and then everything just goes to that length. It doesn't have any live tool. It has, so there's 5 stick tools, radial turning tools. There's 2 radial live tools. And then there's 3 dead axial tool spots with 3/4 bores, but there's enough room to put in like a coolant or air driven tool in there. So you can run some coolant or air driven live tooling axially for doing torques, either in the main or the sub side.
Okay.
So I've already verified the fit on all that stuff. The main thing is I need to verify coolant pressure and all that. I mean, worst case, you could just rotary broach it. But I don't really want to do that because it's not as clean. You can't get it as like crisp on the details, especially if you don't want like the tool to touch the bottom of it or anything and scratch kind of thing. I know some of them are dished so that it only contacts at the outermost lobes of the torques.
That's one of the things that's nice about you being the one that has the Swiss is that you get to think about and solve these problems because your brain works that way.
Yeah, but the nice thing too, though, is that, I mean, the worst case, which I don't really want to rely on, but worst case, just do all the turning on it. And then if there's any radial milling, do that.
Mill the torques.
But just mill them. You know, just build a plate, screw all the shit in here, and just mill 1,000 torques at one time on here.
Hundreds of T10s, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't
it's not
think,
a very efficient thing, but like...
Yeah, it's like Alex is going...
That,
Alex is going through a lot of screws. I'm not going through that many right now. So, I mean, if I ran one cycle with 100 screws on it, it would be good for a while for me. Well, it's only actually 25 knife screws.
It's just a pain running those tiny-ass little tools, you know? Like, I know when I was doing my T10s, I was using like a 0.4 ball. You know, it was like 15 thou or 14 thou.
Yeah, it's
but they held up for a long time.
But it's doable.
My cycle, I didn't really take the time to tweak it so that it was like really efficient. You know, I was going in with like a 1.5 millimeter bullnose and gutting it out, and then a 0.8 millimeter bullnose to cut the torques profile on the chamfer, and then a 0.4 to pick out the corners. Like I never really took the time to like maximize like the cycle time. I think it took like 3 minutes to cut a torques or something like that. Like it didn't take long, but because of that, it also was a little bit of a pain in the ass. You know, I just sat there and screwed screws on one at a time onto a pivot barrel and hit go.
Shit.
But I did like 300 of them in like a day or two. You know what I mean? And then I didn't need them for like a while. So it was like, as long as you're batching that, you know,
something like that would be an easy one where you just make a fixture that holds 200 in it. You do turn 200 pieces or whatever, thread them all in there, get them as tight as you can anyways. Yeah. And then let that shit run at night. I don't care if it takes 12 hours, you know, just let it run all night while I'm sleeping anyways. Yeah.
Well, and you could like use different materials too. So you don't necessarily have to use titanium. You could use like a stainless and then.
Could be whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're a fucking peasant.
Well, I want to be a peasant sometimes.
Does Swiss run oil or coolant?
He already converted it right now to run coolant, which is nice.
So you can cut dirt without lighting it on fire.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about that. It is actually small enough to where I can just push it outside if I need to worry about that shit. Just pallet jack it outside and run some Zerk. Well, my neighbor cut his trees down, so I don't have to worry about that.
You don't want the fucking machine to light on fire like John's.
Fuck that shit.
Did you see that video of John's Swiss lighting on fire when he was cutting
at EOS?
Yeah. And he had that like suppressive, that $100,000 fire suppression software just exploded on the inside of the machine and put the fire out.
Fire trace. Those things are actually pretty cool. They just run a really soft hose through there. There's a couple different systems, but it's basically a pressurized hose. Yeah. It's basically a low melting point hose that runs around the top of the enclosure. And if they melt, it releases the gas that you can it's either the suppressant in the tube or it's just a pressurized line that then drops, or it opens up a solenoid that then feeds the fire suppressant into the machine. And they say that you can be back up and running within an hour. Like it doesn't contaminate anything.
Oh, that's
like
cool.
An actual fire extinguisher.
That's sick.
Yeah. So that's kind of one of their whole selling points is that they're super easy to integrate. They'll automatically e-stop the machine as well. So anytime that it loses pressure just from heat or especially from fire, it'll shut everything down and then just smother the fire. You go in there, you wipe it all up, you clean it all out, and you just start running again. So pretty cool.
Sick, dude. Well, guys, I hate to cut you off. I got somebody walking through the door here in 5 minutes.
No,
We're going to wrap this
it,
episode up. But
it
does feel good to be back. Too. Oh, thank you for whatever that is that you sent me.
It's just
Bamboo X1 carbon, and I just bought this fruitless, meaningless
hydration. I was hoping you'd still be sick. Not really, but it's for hydration.
I'm trying to stay hydrated.
There you go.
I'm gonna tip into it, man. I realized when I got sick how woefully dehydrated I was, and like usually I'm pretty good about drinking water, but being out of town and stuff, and even like being in like the drier California climate, you know, and then not drinking enough water, like I was surprised. Like, well, then I was in the sun baking at the Chargers game on Sunday, and like drinking and like not drinking water, and that was actually, I think that was one of the things that got me, was like getting all fucked up at the Chargers game in the 85-degree weather, directly into sleeping for 2 hours and then coming home with a fucking fever. Like, I think that kicked off my sickness in a way that I wasn't really anticipating. So, well, guys, it was a pleasure. I'm glad to be back. And
same.
You guys have a happy Thanksgiving too. For the
you too, dude.
Yeah, you too, man.
Yeah, everybody.
Hope you guys enjoy your holiday, and I will be hitting you up as soon as this bamboo shows up so that I can start making some cool stuff.
Sweet. As soon as you install Fusion again.
Yeah, actually. Oh, I'm going to do that right now, actually.
Nice.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We look forward to catching up with you next week. This is Sharpened Perspectives. You guys have a great day.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks, guys.